John Fetterman blames TikTok for giving young people warped view, okay, so far I agree, of Israel-Hamas war. I probably agree with this to an extent. I've got a pretty low opinion of TikTok in terms of its ability to, I guess the problem is that you have higher standards the closer you get to being true, right? So if the default position that a person might have from media, from respectable media like NBC or CNN or whatever, is like pro-genocide, Israel is defending themselves, blah, blah, then like if a person ends up being pro-Palestinian in a kind of crazy radicalized way from TikTok, that's still probably better than the alternative. Like ideally, everyone would be fully educated and like have perfect knowledge or whatever, but nobody does, of course. You're dealing with like degrees of misinformation, and the source you get your information from can alter that, and the way you get, the way you process that information. Yeah. I mean, I'll say this much, okay? There are lots of young people whose views on the conflict are warped because of TikTok, but Fetterman is fucking insane. Bloodthirsty psychopath lunatic who's alienated his entire constituency, wearing a fucking Israeli flag at a march, like attacking people, like insane, absolutely insane, psychotic, completely insane. So however deranged people are, like I would say that like he is more deranged than the Zoomers on TikTok I saw who were praising Osama bin Laden for his letter to America. Like the level of derangement that he is on. Oh no, he's extremely bad faith. Yeah, Fetterman isn't like just an authentic disagreeer or whatever. I mean, he is like earnestly bad faith. The way he's been talking about this, the way he recently lied and said that he never claimed he was a progressive when he campaigned off of that for years. Total bullshit. Total piece of shit.
A lot of people are getting their perspective from TikTok, and I think if you're kind of getting your perspective on the world on TikTok, it's going to.
I can't believe I trusted him. Yeah, I always knew that he was a Zionist, but like Zionism is the default position in American government on like a federal level. So I didn't think that would, like when I knew he was a Zionist, I didn't think that meant he would be draping himself in an Israeli flag while 20,000 Palestinian civilians have been slaughtered. I didn't think, like, maybe being a Zionist is just one of those positions that sort of guarantees cognitive decay towards that position, like being a transphobe, where like a bunch of people who were ostensibly liberal feminists through transphobia have been radicalized into essentially being far right purely because it's the same, like they have the same position on transphobia. Honestly, he really benefited from his opponent being Dr. Oz. Yeah, and Dr. Oz probably would have been worse, but like, holy shit, dude. Doesn't he have a wall of hostages in his office so he can envision his Zionist fantasies of running to God? Yeah, putting up all of the hostage photos in his room, insane, right outside of his office. Vosh, does this mean that voting people into office is a practice in futility? No, I don't think so. I think that materially, there will still be like a readjustment towards the median position, even from so-called radicals, but it doesn't mean it's worthless. It just means that it's another stumbling block to jump over. Also, to be fair, Fetterman has not regressed to the median position. He is more insane than almost any other Democrat, you know? Yeah, it's like on this issue, he's acting crazier than the rest of them. So I don't think this is just him falling in line. He's falling out of line in a different direction.
Tend to be kind of warped or not reflective of the history and actually the way things absolutely are. And what is very clear is that Hamas started this, and they actually broke the ceasefire, and they attacked and murdered babies, children, women, attacked a music.
Whenever I see him with this hostage wall lineup thing, I think of this insane promo that was done for the hostages taken by Hamas, where they were doing like yoga for them. I'm gonna mute the music because I don't know if it's copyright, but it just sounds like this the whole time. And they're doing yoga over the faces of the hostages, actually like psychotic, like genuinely like mental illness, like unbelievably deranged, incredibly ghoulish, inhuman, satanic behavior. But this was like a bit like, look at this. Jesus Christ. What even is the message here? That they're crazy. That is the message that they're sending, that they're crazy. They're informing you. They're warning you. Okay?
Concert and everything. It's outrageous. And from now on, it's been very clear that Israel would very much want there to be peace, but they've made it very clear that after.
That's so true, dude. That's so true. Meanwhile, Netanyahu literally the other day was like, I sure am glad I've spent the past 30 years sabotaging any hope of a Palestinian state. Also, I sure was attending death chant protests for the previous guy who was better on Palestinian relations than me, you know? The guy who was assassinated by an insane Zionist, the guy who had a rally where people were chanting for his death, where I participated in it and spoke, the one where like Ben Gvir was like openly like present and stuff. Yeah, you know? So glad that Israel has like, you know, made such an effort for peace. He's either lying or completely delusional. I think it's both. I think he's completely delusional, but I also think he knows he's lying to an extent. The hostages' families should have been jailed to shut them up, said former U.S. citizen who was an Israeli spy. That's cool, because the families of the kidnapped Israelis were really upset with Netanyahu because he basically said he didn't care about their lives and was just going to like use this as a pretext to kill as many Palestinians as possible. You know how insane you have to be an Israeli spy? Like, you already know how like indoctrinated your average soldier is. Imagine a spy, and then for Israel, you know, former U.S. intelligence analyst imprisoned for spying for Israel. That's great. By the way, really love continuing to militarily support Israel, a country that openly hates us and spies on us, by the way. I do love that, you know? Like, allies do spy on one another. That is always going to be the case. But, you know, the one cool thing an Israeli spy did was kidnap Nazis in Argentina. Yeah, they brought him back to Israel so they could ask for their advice on how to deal with the Gaza Strip. Jesus. Not your fault. Mother sends love support to troops who killed her son in tragic error. This is the 3 Israeli hostages who were waving a white flag, who were gunned down on site by IDF soldiers, and then one of them fled to a building to take cover, and the soldiers pursued him in spite of a ceasefire order and shot and killed him behind cover. Not your fault. A ghost made you pull that trigger. I am Yotam's mother. I wanted to tell you that I love you very much and I hug you here from afar. This is actually peak fascism, yeah. Like, you killed my boy, but I love you for it because you support the state and the blood, you know? You know, you are of our blood and our soil, so you may have killed my boy, but it doesn't matter because ultimately we're all one, you know? This is like pure fascism shit. Tons of examples of this in like super radicalized far-right ethno-nationalist societies. And then on the other side of things, we have a good parent. Avi Shamriz, the father of one of the hostages mistakenly killed by the IDF in Gaza, tells Hallie Jackson, Israel murdered my son twice.
There was pressure that these hostage family members wanted to put on the Netanyahu government. Israel, we're in government. What is your message to the prime minister? What is your message to a country that knows your son's name now?
I'm going to say this government, you murdered my son twice. You let the Hamas take my son on October 7th, and you killed my son on December 14th. They cannot serve us. They don't deserve us as a country, as a community. They are not our leaders. They're thinking only on themselves, on their chairs, on their salaries. They are not thinking about the hostages. They are not thinking about us.
Guarantee you right-wing Israeli media is already framing this guy as like pro-Hamas or whatever.
His frustration, his pain, just so palpable there, Garrett, as was the pain of Leila Talalka, Samer's mother. She was, you just saw there, Alon Shamriz's father sitting Shiva. She was welcoming visitors to her home, including an Israeli politician who came to offer condolences. She rejected those condolences. And while we were there, she told him, and we happened to watch it as we were sitting in her living room, as she was on her couch greeting people, she said, I will never forgive anyone on this. She said, I hold out hope for hostages, for other people.
Good. Hate forever. Good. Good.
October 7th. That's just not possible so long as Hamas is allowed to exist.
Being a giant oaf with poor fashion sense is no longer endearing when you're openly pro-genocidal. Nope. Not cool anymore. You can't, the whole charm, put a f***ing suit on, you f***ing slob. The whole point, the whole charm was that he was this oafish, lovable buffoon wearing a hoodie in the Senate building, and none of that means anything when you're pro-genocide and pro-fascist government. I feel bad for defending him online now. Yeah, well, you know, not much we could do about this. He's going to go down with Manchin and Cinema. No, I disagree. Joe Manchin really hasn't been that dishonest. He was always like the most red-blue, the only Democrat who could win his seat. I don't think he really betrayed. And I mean, to the extent that him being a stooge of the fossil fuel industry, sure. But like, you know what you get. Cinema lied about being a progressive and then shifted over, but I don't think she's ever demonstrated the same vitriol that Fetterman has, I guess. Like, she did the big thumbs down for the wage increase. I mean, she's been horrible, don't get me wrong, but Fetterman has been like frothing at the mouth, like furious, angry, pro-genocide. And genocide's roughly the worst thing, right? Like, I'm not to make a oppression Olympics pyramid out of it, but in terms of like how bad things are, that's really up there. So it's really high on the list. So yeah.